Let's be real. When was the last time you put off going to the doctor? Maybe you said, I'm too busy, or it'll heal on its own. Or my personal favorite, I don't even know which doctor to go to. We've all been there. Booking a doctor's appointment can feel really daunting. But there's not really an excuse anymore, thanks to Zocdoc. Zocdoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors and click to instantly book an appointment. Most bookings happen within 24 to 72 hours, and you can even sometimes get same-day visits. I know that if I ever needed this, it's exactly what I'd use. Stop putting off those doctor appointments and head to Zocdoc.com/sportly to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/sportly. Zocdoc.com/sportly. Star Trek's Commander Badge, Batman's utility belt, James Bond's watch. Wearable technology has been a part of the collective imagination for nearly 100 years. And recently, that tech is going from fiction to reality. Whether we're counting our calories, checking our heart rates, or tracking every step and stride we take, the 21st century boom in wearables has transformed how we interact with the world around us. And perhaps nowhere more dramatically than in sports and exercise. As more and more of us strap on fitness tracking smartwatches and GPS-enabled exercise vests, it's worth asking, how far can this tech really take us? Hey everyone, it's Kavitha Davidson, and welcome back to Sportly. Wearable technology has taken the world by storm over the last 15 years. Smartwatches, rings, and vests, these devices have revolutionized how we use technology in our day-to-day lives. We swim, jog, hike, and even sleep with them, on an endless quest to close our exercise rings and hit that coveted 10,000-step goal. But in the sports world, wearables are becoming so much more than just a device to count your steps or track how many calories you've burned. They're revolutionizing how professional athletes train, how they plan out practice, monitor their performance after the game, and develop rehab regimes when they get injured. So, how exactly do these devices work? What difference are they making in the performance of amateur and professional athletes alike? And as the sports wearable market continues to balloon in size, are we taking this tech a bit too far?
Fitbit got off to a running start as it opened for public trading Thursday.
Wearable tech has been around for quite some time. Early offerings like the Seiko Reputer and the Microsoft Spot were released decades ago in the late 90s and early 2000s. They could do simple things like display the weather, give stock updates, and receive emails. But it was in the 2010s that wearable technology really started to take over. Tech companies saw potential in wearables for fitness and sports. Their primary selling point? Getting people moving and keeping a close eye on how they do it. When it comes to the early fitness trackers, few were as iconic as the Fitbit.
Fitbit is a device and a website. We want to make people aware of how active they are, how well they're eating, and really motivate them to live a healthier life.
That was Fitbit CEO James Park in 2008. Following in the footsteps of high-profile tech moguls, Park dropped out of Harvard to pursue business. After a couple of failed ventures, he had the idea for Fitbit, a tiny wearable device that would get Americans moving.
This is a device. Inside there's an accelerometer, like in a Nintendo Wii, and it constantly senses your body's motion and tells you things like, how intense or how long have I been active? How many calories have I burned? Did I sleep well? How many steps have I taken? Distance traveled.
It would take him some time to actually get the thing working. Money, for one, was a huge problem.
We raised a few $100,000, and we thought that would take us to launch. We totally underestimated it.
That was Park in an interview with CNA Insider in 2021. And money wasn't all. Here's his business partner, Eric Friedman, on the logistics side.
We assumed, hardware, just a bunch of chips, we would all build Legos, How hard can it be? It turns out it took us a lot of work to find the right manufacturing partner. We'd spend months in Asia. I had taken a couple months of Chinese, and we'd go up and say, can you do this type of thing? Factory owner would turn to his chief engineer and say, kui, can you? And the chief engineer would think about it and go, bukri, and they'd have this back and forth.
It turns out it's not easy packing 100 electronic components in a couple of centimeters, especially not back in 2008. The team struggled to get their device working right up until launch day, which they were forced to delay, disappointing thousands of anticipating customers. But soon enough, the Fitbit was out in the world, complete with a website to sync your data and upload your steps. With each passing year, James Park and his team sold more and more Fitbits.
Fitbit shares officially going public on the New York Stock Exchange, making it one of the first companies focused on wearable devices to be publicly traded.
A few generations in, they added Bluetooth connectivity to connect right to your phone and a community page where you could compete with friends. The wearable era as we know it today was finally taking shape. Fitbit users across the country were logging their workouts and racing friends to top their weekly step count. But things really kicked into high gear in 2015 when Apple released a device that would change the world.
We have one more thing.
And no, we're not talking about the iPhone or the iMac.
We've been working incredibly hard for a long time on an entirely new product. And we believe this product will redefine what people expect from its category.
We're actually talking about the Apple Watch, the highest selling wearable device ever, with hundreds of millions of watches sold. Apple's first smartwatch marked a new era of tech. The wearables market more than doubled in a year, with Apple quickly becoming the biggest player in the game. And of course, fitness remained a major, if not the primary, focus. With a built-in heart rate sensor, GPS, and accelerometer, the watch aimed to give users a complete picture of their day-to-day activities. It would buzz you when you've been sitting too long and encourage you to close out daily goals for calories burned and brisk exercise. None of these features were, by themselves, revolutionary. But in the US, where most smartphone owners own an iPhone, the watch's seamless integration with other Apple products quickly made it the most popular choice for anyone in the market for a wearable. And ironically enough, with the rise of the Apple Watch came the downfall of traditional fitness wearables.
I found a kid who swings a golf club like a dream. I'd like to try to qualify him for the U.S. Amateurs.
Coming to Apple TV Plus.
What's your name?
I'm not into older guys, but I'm flattered.
A new comedy series, Stick.
I don't want to go on this trip.
Your mouth's saying one thing, but those eyes are saying something else.
From the home of Ted Lasso.
This is your shot at redemption? This is your mulligan?
Owen Wilson.
This game takes and it takes. The game's finally giving me something back.
Stick.
You know Arnold Palmer?
Iced tea, lemonade, mix it.
I'm missing a nap for this.
Streaming June 4th on Apple TV Plus.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks, or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Visit USAA.com/bundle.
Bundle savings are off total premium, not available in all states or in all situations. To qualify, auto policy must be active prior to property policy issue, subject to change. Restrictions apply. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
More Americans are using a smartwatch than ever before, but that means they aren't buying the dedicated activity trackers of the past. Each year, Fitbit is selling fewer and fewer of its once famous watches. And it's no help that, since the company was acquired by Google a few years back, they've discontinued many of their once beloved products and features. They even stopped offering the once iconic group step challenges. Here's a clip from Connect the Watts on YouTube reacting to the news.
Well, if you thought Google couldn't make Fitbit any worse, you, my friend, would be wrong.
The comment section is riddled with angry Fitbit users. One writes, "They just lost a 7-year customer," and another says they're going to buy an Apple Watch. So what's next for the world of fitness wearables? Is the 2010s craze really over? I mean, the truth is that energy hasn't died out, it's just going to new places. It's the quarterfinal of the ACC tournament in college basketball. The Duke Blue Devils take on Georgia Tech. And needless to say, with a record of 28-3, the Blue Devils are riding high. That is, until star player Cooper Flagg goes up for a defensive rebound, lands awkwardly, and crumbles.
Cooper Flagg went down grabbing at his left ankle area as he went down after the rebound.
The camera captures Flagg's parents leaping up in concern as their son limps off the court with the help of his teammates. The commentators note that the energy in the building has shifted.
Man, did this place get some kind of quiet on this play? Look how high he was.
In the muted stadium, everyone's wondering the same thing. How bad is it? How long will he be out? Online, debate rages over whether Flagg should even risk playing in the upcoming March Madness tournament. Some say that Duke needs their star player as they go for the national title, while others say it's just too risky for Flagg, the hottest NBA prospect in college basketball, projected to be the #1 pick in the upcoming NBA draft. Here's Stephen A. Smith weighing in.
But if he is available at any point, and I'm talking about 70% or better, if he is available, okay, you're trying to win a national championship. You play that man during the NCAA tournament.
In a way, all that debate makes sense. It used to be that an ankle sprain required guesswork. A decade ago, the standard procedure would have been ice, rest, and a wait-and-see approach. But there's a new way to do things, thanks to quickly advancing wearable tech. You see, the moment that Flagg stepped off the court, a rigorous recovery plan was already taking place, based not on feeling, but on data. Here's a Duke trainer describing the recovery of another player, Trey Jones, a few years back, giving us a sense of the team's standard procedure for injuries.
Trey's been working 3-4 times a day, coming in, doing treatment. You know, we've kind of been working around the clock, and he's put in a ton of work in the pool, in the training room, up on the court, in the weight room.
Once the injured player starts training again, the Catapult wearable vest comes into play.
This is our GPS and accelerometer-based movement tracking that we use on all of our players in every single practice, every single game, shoot around. So we have a really good idea of the intensity and the quantity of movement that occurs in every single session.
In the simplest terms, Catapult measures how hard an athlete is working. With their GPS-enabled vests, Catapult can measure how much exertion is happening in a given practice or game and translate that data into a value they call workload. That data can be used to identify patterns in a player's movement and make better decisions about their performance moving forward. And it doesn't stop there. Since the vests are GPS-enabled, they can also track the direction of the movement, which is important when you're talking about a left or right ankle sprain.
Kind of two major things we want to see is the ratio of ground movement. The jumping movement is the same as everybody else, but also the symmetry. So he had 7 left and 8 right movements, so we can see that he's moving symmetrically one side versus the other. And so from here, it's only going to build up from there.
So back to Cooper Flagg. What does his recovery process look like? Well, using the Catapult system, trainers can track his progress in a new way. They can pinpoint the precise moment he'll be ready to get back on the court. No speculation, no real guesswork, no having to worry about a player saying they're back up to 100% before their body is actually ready. Just a little over a week later, and Flagg is back on the court for the first game of the NCAA tournament, putting up 14 points against Mount St. Mary's. Now, of course, this tech isn't some kind of magic cure for injuries. Each injury will be different, requiring different kinds of treatments, exercises, and rest periods. But the Catapult system can make these kinds of situations a lot less scary.
So it kind of gives us confidence, and also gives Trey confidence knowing that even though if he feels great, we can quantify and say, hey, look, we've actually, all that work you put in while you've been injured, it's really paid off, and we're able to maintain your fitness. Now you're ready to perform at a high level and also be safe where you're not undertrained, where you might get an overuse.
Duke isn't the only team with access to the cutting-edge technology. Across the globe, teams like the Kansas City Chiefs, the Boston Celtics, and the Real Madrid Football Club are taking advantage of this new frontier of wearable tech. And it's not just the professional leagues. High schools have even started using the tech.
You've seen them worn by some of the best athletes in the world, from football to soccer to even tennis. But now in Dublin, the Irish football program using the Catapult 1 vest to level up the game this fall.
That was a 13 WMAZ news clip on the Dublin Irish, a high school football team in rural Georgia.
You say, for instance, one day you go crazy, like you have crazy stats. And then after that, you start slacking, he gonna know.
It's that knowing that's really at the heart of this new tech. It's one thing to feel like your team isn't playing hard enough, but like it does for injuries, the vests take out the guesswork. The data is there, and it tells you when a player is exerting a little less than they did the day before. So as more and more teams pick up these vests for their players, a new era of sports wearables is upon us.
This episode is brought to you by Honda. When you test drive the all-electric Prologue SUV, there's a lot that could impress you about it. There's the generous passenger space, the clean, thoughtful design, and the intuitive technology. But out of everything, what you'll really love most is that it's a Honda. Visit honda.com/EV to see offers.
For coaches, it's like a dream come true, being able to track and analyze your players' every movement on the field. But what about the players themselves? In some ways, it's great for them too. Training and rehabilitating can be tracked more easily than ever. But could there be some potential dangers? You see, the potential for wearable technology to be abused for surveillance purposes has been a concern forever. It dates all the way back to the 1800s when the pedometer started becoming a household item. In old newspapers and magazines, you can find countless stories of jealous spouses or overprotective parents sneakily attaching pedometers to their loved ones to track their movements. In 1890, the Los Angeles Times ran a piece on a, quote, frail, consumptive Connecticut girl who wanted to attend a dance. When she told her parents she felt too sick to do the dishes, they sent her to the dance with a pedometer in her pocket, and sure enough, she had danced enough to cover 31 miles. Now, that story might sound innocent enough, but it hints at a darker side of wearable tech. Jacqueline Wernmoint, a professor of women, gender, and sexuality studies at Dartmouth, warns about a tension in wearable technology between, quote, surveillance and self-improvement, control and liberation. And those tensions linger in today's world of sports wearables. Imagine for a moment that you're a professional athlete, and each practice you pull over a Catapult vest. Your coach might see what a great job you're doing and use the data to give you more playing time. But how would you feel if the reverse were true? And what the coach sees on the back end actually gets you cut from the team? That's not just a vague hypothetical, it's a real concern driving the reluctance of many professional athletes to adopt wearable tech. In interviews conducted by a team of researchers at Mississippi State University, multiple coaches and trainers shared that their players were fearful of the new tech. One trainer told interviewers that athletes are, quote, worried that they're being tracked and that the coach will know when they're slacking. And why shouldn't they be worried? Their livelihoods depend on their ability to remain on a roster. It's become enough of a concern that many players' unions are adding clauses about wearable tech in collective bargaining agreements. But many say that those agreements still haven't gone far enough to protect players' data, like Brian Bulkey, a retired Canadian Football League lineman. He tells the Globe and Mail, quote, can you imagine sleep data on a 14-year-old being used against him getting recruited to LSU or Stanford? We love to talk about the winners, but nobody talks about the guys who had their careers cut short or didn't make it because they're using the same technology. Now, you could argue that the tech is simply providing more data points for coaches to make good and informed decisions. But the reality is, these vests aren't perfect, nor are any kind of wearables. They can be disrupted by Bluetooth signals from fans or building materials that prevent the vest signals from reaching satellites. That's why Duke had to install new sensors in their own arena. And even if it were perfect, it could leave athletes more focused on quantity over quality, desperate to deliver on certain metrics to avoid getting cut, even at the expense of their own well-being. Now, does that mean the tech is worthless? Of course not. These innovations will have real positive impacts on a player's ability to track their progress or rehabilitate from an injury. But it's still worth being cautious. Sports wearables aren't going anywhere. With every passing year, more teams buy into the hype, finding new ways to use technology to analyze their team and make adjustments. And the tech itself is only getting smarter. It's up to us to be smart about it too, to protect players' data and privacy and use these new innovations for good. As for what's next, well, maybe all those wrist wearables will make a comeback in today's exercise boom. Maybe the vests become standard gear at every level, like that high school team in Georgia. Or maybe something entirely new pops up, redefining what we think wearables can do once again. Only time will tell, but no matter what, we'll be here to keep you in the loop. Thanks for tuning into Sportly. Tune in next week and every week after for a new episode. And if you have thoughts or suggestions for a topic you'd like me to cover, I'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to email me at kavitha@immigrantlypod.com. Sportly is an Immigrantly Media production. This episode was produced by Sadia Khan, written by Nicholas Black. Our sound designer and editor is Paroma Chakravarti. Our theme music was created by Simon Hutchinson. Other music by Epidemic Sound. Tune back in next week for more Sportly.